Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. And yes, that wish you made over the weekend did come true because Batya Ungar-Sargon is my wonderful co-host today. Not in studio, sadly, but from your home studio, I guess, in New York.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Brooklyn, New York, representing.
Well, we're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And we do have a great show planned for today. Reasons Liz Wolfe will be here to discuss New York's new gun laws. And we'll take a look at Kamala Harris's response to some tough questions regarding Roe with our Rising panel.
But first, over the weekend, social media went into a frenzy after Tesla CEO Elon Musk pulled out of his $44 billion Twitter deal, a first time pulling out for him. Joke, less than 3 months after reaching a deal to acquire Twitter. Stocks for the social media giant took a dip. Following the news, however, Tesla reportedly climbed more than 2%. Bloomberg reported Sunday that a New York law firm is representing Twitter to take on Musk in court and will file its lawsuit in Delaware next week.
Right. And now Musk reportedly abandoned the deal because Twitter failed to provide accurate and comprehensive information on fake or spam accounts. And in traditional Musk fashion, he tweeted a meme of the situation that reads the following: "They say I couldn't buy Twitter. Then they wouldn't disclose bot info. Now they want to force me to buy Twitter in court. Now they have to disclose bot info in court." So, Robby, what is your take on this?
I don't know. There's a lot of different, I think there's a lot of potential takeaways. You know, maybe Elon, so I think the conservative world or people who thought, Elon Musk was going to be the white knight in this situation, was going to rescue Twitter from its bad policy, rescue us from it, I guess, in some sense, rescue political and social dialogue of consequence from the vice grip of censorship and unpleasantness that is Twitter, was a foolish hope. Maybe I also shared that hope to some degree. So I guess that's what you get for kind of trusting in someone who does, get interested in different projects, right, and then get less interested in them. Or, you can take at face value the idea, what he's saying, that he was interested in buying this, but then it turned out that, it's this house of cards where there are many more fake accounts or inactive accounts than Twitter was initially letting on, although I think we kind of already understood that, right? Why did Elon jump headfirst into this thing if he didn't know something that I think most people paying even somewhat close attention to Twitter know to be the case, which is that it's way more than what they say, the number of fake accounts. But, what do you think?
Well, I believe that on this very show, I actually predicted that he was not going to buy it and that this was a great distraction from, the problems at Tesla. I can't believe I actually was right about that. I'm never right about anything, but I was right about that. And
That's right. we doff our cap to you.
Yeah, I think this was a big distraction, and I don't think he ever had any intention of buying Twitter. I think that this was a really good ruse for him to unload a lot of Tesla stock at a time when Tesla stock was, in free fall. And I think it was genius. I mean, it was totally brilliant. And to me, this bot thing, he found a thing that would be very hard, I think, to prove one way or the other. I mean, it was so clever, right? They struggle to actually come up with an accurate number. And so he can go to court and say, look, they're lying about what the number is because it's something that's so hard to falsify. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know if my following is just too small on Twitter. My sense is that the number of bots in my mentions is about 5%. Most of the people trolling me are big name blue checks or people who I have been friends with or had in my home for dinner. It's like people who get mad at you in social situations. My experience of Twitter is not that I'm getting bombarded by bots, but that I'm getting bombarded by angry progressives and leftists.
Yeah.
So I would say, just from my personal experience, I think it's much more in the range of the Twitter numbers than the Elon Musk numbers. But again, this is just anecdotal.
Yeah. I too have been bombarded with some criticism from some kind of woke blue check people since the show last week. So that's been fun. Meanwhile, former President Trump blasted Elon as another BS artist after Elon revealed he first voted for Republican in Texas Mayra Flores, though Trump said that Elon had told Trump he voted for him. which, who knows. But it's kind of a fair criticism to call him a BS artist in the wake of, not the did I vote for you thing, which is kind of stupid, but in the wake of the Twitter thing, which he seemed committed to and is now going to, pay up to $1 billion or something to get out of. That is a kind of, he can do it, whatever. I don't, but it will be interesting to see if this causes some of his sort of conservative fan base that he's acquired, I think, in the last few weeks and months to look elsewhere. Because there was a moment where he was becoming the main character. My theory is that the two teams always need their main protagonist, and for so long the red team's protagonist was Trump, and Trump is starting to, the fever is finally breaking. Trump is fading a little bit into the background, so there needs to be a new character. Maybe that's just another political figure, maybe that's just Ron DeSantis, but for a little while it was looking like Elon Musk was getting all of this attention and was increasingly becoming a red-coded figure, which is interesting to watch someone in real time who's not perfectly sorted into one team or the other get sorted, because that's like what the system has to do. It has to process you as a red person or a blue person. But I don't know if that process might not continue.
So first of all, that clip of Trump calling him a BS artist is so funny, because you immediately become a 10-year-old thinking like, takes one to know one, who is a better authority on who is a BS artist than Donald Trump, right? It's a great clip. I think what you just said is so interesting because it's exactly my take, but from the other side. So to me, the reason that Musk was doing all this was because, he realized he needed a home on the right. And so he very cleverly thought, well, what is the thing conservatives are most exercised about? And it's being censored on Twitter, which is, they have a total right to be exercised about that. They are being censored on Twitter. It is terrible. It is awful for the public sphere. It's really, really, really shameful how that happens. They're totally right to be upset about that. But I think that he thought to himself, I need to make myself a home on the right. Things are not going great at Tesla. Tesla, of course, electric cars, right? They're very affiliated with the left. How do I make myself a nice little nest on the right? I go and I tell them I'm going to champion your free speech rights on Twitter. And so he made this whole elaborate ruse to distract from things going poorly at Tesla, and he was right. He became immediately a champion for the right, despite the fact that this is a man who is completely in the pocket of the Chinese Communist Party. And the right today is supposed to be the side that's hawkish on China. So that was that was actually very hard for me to stomach, like seeing all of these conservatives who are supposed to be the kind of the front line on, fighting back against China, championing this person who's the biggest cheerleader for the Chinese Communist Party in the West, essentially. But, we'll see what happens now that this is sort of coming to a head. Yeah, and that was the most serious concern about Elon, was the possibility that there would be a different kind of censorship on Twitter in order to appease China, something that, we see even with companies that aren't explicitly setting out to do that. It gets very tricky. Google has had this struggle. Well, Google doesn't want to censor Google, but the Chinese government says, well, you have to if you're going to operate here. And then they have this weird, even from like the standpoint of what's better for a free society, I think it can be a hard call. Like, well, do we just pull out entirely, say no negotiating with authoritarian governments? Do we say, well, it's probably better even for the oppressed people of the country to have even the censored access might be better? I think those end up being difficult calls even before you bring in then, well, what is the company going to do, because it's in its best interest. But yes, Elon will not be Twitter's savior, but we'll have to keep paying attention to the legal battle, I suppose. We'll find out if Twitter's able to claim its $1 billion, however much it is, which I assume they probably will be, or I don't know. We have no idea at this point. Right, but what's $1 billion to Elon Musk after how much he saved from selling off all of that Tesla stock, right? So,
good point. Well, you were absolutely right about this one. So we're very happy to have your very perceptive judgment all day, and we'll tell you what's on our radars coming up next.